The 2021 Antrim Senior and Junior Camogie Champions were crowned in Ballymena last Sunday, with Loughgiel beating Dunloy in the senior decider and St John's Belfast beating Loughgiel's third team in the junior final. We'll take a look at both games, but we'll lead with the senior final where Loughgiel secured a 3-12 to 1-9 win. There's not much to say about this Loughgiel team that hasn't already been said. This was their 8th successive Antrim title, which beat the record of 7 in a row set by Belfast side Deirdre in the 1960s. They came into this season as hot favourites to win another Antrim title thanks to their recent history in the competition, and also the fact that they had 14 players in the Antrim panel that achieved All-Ireland success in the summer. But having watched them a number of times, the bigger question is probably why was it only 14 players? Obviously the answer is some players have other commitments and can't commit to the schedule of an inter-county player, but should that change, one would expect that whoever takes over as Antrim manager for next season would be more than happy to welcome them into the squad. A few questions were raised about how Loughgiel would respond to their group stage defeat to Dunloy, but they were emphatically answered with impressive wins over Ballycastle in the semi-final and then Dunloy at the weekend. Arguably the biggest catalyst for those two wins was the form of Raquel Murphy. I already spoke about her performance against Ballycastle, but she took it up another notch against Dunloy. Her scoring record is there to be seen, but on Sunday the thing that impressed me most was the leadership she showed to her younger teammates. In the second half, I was stood in line with the Loughgiel forwards, and she was constantly talking and encouraging those around her, with Annie Lynn in particular receiving a lot of encouragement and praise. That vocal leadership is invaluable in team sports, and then there's also the fact that she leads by example as well, with stellar performances. In truth, Loughgiel have a great balance between youth and experience right across the pitch, and it goes a long way to explaining why they've been so successful for so long. You could go right through the Loughgiel team and praise them all, such was the level and quality of the performance, but a few who I do want to mention are Amy Boyle and Katrine Dobbin. Amy Boyle has had a great year, and every time I watch her she tends to pop up all over the field to help her team and teammates, and I thought she was excellent on Sunday. Katrine Dobbin has also had an excellent year and has scored heavily throughout this championship to help Loughgiel win this title. On Sunday I was impressed with her work rate off the ball as I was when she was in possession. She was a constant nuisance to the Dunloy backs and more than played her part in the win. Finally, in Loughgiel, I'd like to wish Roisin McCormick well in her recovery from the injury she suffered early in the game. Roisin's an exceptional talent and has been a pleasure to watch for both Loughgiel and Antrim this year. Credit to her teammates also, whose heads could have very easily dropped after losing such a key player, but they were able to maintain their high standards, and it was good to hear she was in the thoughts of her teammates during Maeve Conley's speech after the match. I'm not sure how long she'll be out for, but there's no doubt someone will have big shoes to fill when they try to take her place. On Dunloy, I think they'll feel annoyed about how the game went for them. If you were going to do a stereotypically performance from a young team coming into a big match, you'd pretty much come up with what happened with Dunloy on Sunday. They had the poor start, which is usually attributed to nerves, and then as the game went on and they settled down after half time, they showed how good they can be. And there was a spell in the game where they were absolutely excellent. People will point to the penalty miss, and yes, it was important, but the truth is they were in too deep a hole after the disappointing first half. Had the penalty gone in, it might have been different, but even if it had, there was still a fair bit of work to do, and we've seen in the end that Loughgiel still had plenty in the tank, so there's no guarantee it would have changed the outcome. I've no doubt the takeaway from a Dunloy player's point of view will have been why couldn't we play like we did in the second half for the full game. But it's just the nature of sports and why so often young teams take a few knocks on the way before they succeed. There's a ton of young talent in Dunloy and Sunday will serve its purpose in the long run. Two standout players for me were the McGill sisters, Anya and Bridge. They're both very young, but they had some great moments in the game, and I've no doubt that they both have a lot of big games and big wins ahead of them. Finally, Nicole O'Neill. I'm sure the penalty miss will have been difficult for her to take. And credit as well, obviously, Megan Coyle made the save. You know, we talk a penalty miss, but Megan Coyle made a good save. But for me, overall, it was a great year for Nicole O'Neill. She was a very important player for Antrim through all their success. And for me, there wasn't a Dunloy player that done more than she did in the championship to get them to the final and to get them to have the season that they had. So while Sunday would be disappointment whenever she looks back and what she done this year. I think she should be very pleased with what she put into it and what she got, what she achieved. So over the next couple of years, then it'll be interesting for me to see how the Antrim Championship develops. Dunloy and Ballycastle are both strong at minor level, and were well represented in the team, the minors that won the All Ireland. And as those players gather experience and continue to progress, I think both of those teams should be well placed to start challenging. Cushendall also look strong on their edge, although I think they're probably still a few years away from a major challenge. Had the opportunity recently to watch St Killian's recently in the Leitrim Fontenoy's Cup final, the Ulster final, and I think 13 of that side play for Cushendall, and there's some very, very good players in there. So if they're continuing to progress and add to what's already in Cushendall, I think there's a few years that they could be challenging. I think at the minute that team's maybe about sort of 14, 15, 16, something around that sort of age group. So they're probably a few years away from senior. But while it's great to see all the challengers emerging, Loughgiel don't particularly look like a team that's ready to hand off the baton anytime soon. They have a lot of experienced players, and for me they're still as good as anybody in the county. And whenever the time finally comes for them to step aside, they've got 3 adult teams there, and you'd expect that there's players absolutely bursting for an opportunity to come in and step in, take a chance, and be ready whenever their time comes. As someone that's neutral for sort of those 4 clubs that I mentioned as well, for me it bodes well for Camogie and Antrim, and obviously there's a few new teams popping up across the county. So I think it's fair to say that the game's thriving in Antrim at the minute. In the earlier game on Sunday, St John's Belfast took on Loughgiel's third side in the Junior Championship final. Going into the game, I didn't really have any idea how the game would go, but I have to say that what I witnessed and what I seen from the game, it was probably the most entertaining match I've watched this year. Certainly from a perspective of being neutral. There was games, maybe involving Antrim or involving the local teams where you get into them more because you've got that emotional attachment to it. But I would say from a purely neutral perspective, it was the best game I've seen this year. In the end, St John's scored a goal very deep in injury time to win by a single point, but I'd have to say it wasn't without controversy. And I know that the Loughgiel fans were very unhappy with a few decisions throughout the game. One of the key moments in the game was the sending off of Loughgiel's Anna McKillop. I thought she was actually playing really, really well. But the referee says that she struck an opponent's helmet and sent her off. From a personal point of view, I have to say I should have been in a position to see exactly what happened and be able to make proper comment on it, as it was pretty much 15 yards away from where I was standing. But what I did see was there was a foul. The St John's player committed a foul on the Loughgiel player, and Loughgiel got awarded a free. I think I looked at my phone to see what the score was or how long was gone or something, and sort of by the time I was looking again, the referee was talking to the Loughgiel player, and it seemed to me like the conversation seemed to be lasting a wee while. So I genuinely at no point thought, I thought there was maybe just a wee bit of a talking to, just kind of wise up, whatever's going on, whatever's happened, maybe said something like that. I genuinely didn't see anything that was warned it. And then obviously in the end they come out with a red card. Everybody around me, I have to say, there were pretty much everybody that was on my side of the pitch was from Loughgiel, and all the ones that sort of seen it said that the St John's player sort of held the Loughgiel girl down, and she tried to free herself, and obviously whenever that's happened, the referee's seen that and obviously sent her off. But obviously, I'd like to give more insight into what happened, what should have happened, how it went, but I genuinely missed the most important part of what happened. Interestingly, in the aftermath of the red card, Loughgiel seemed to raise their game. What they obviously felt was an injustice. They got a goal and a point really quickly, which put them 4 points ahead. But then I felt that the water break came at a really bad time for them. there was like there was a real, like, whenever the goal went in, whenever the point was scored, you could see what it meant to the players, what it meant to the coaches, the fans. There was a real momentum, and the water break killed that. And they did get a quick goal after the break, but it just seemed to me that the firing the Brellies after sort of that, what they felt was the injustice, it just felt like it burnt out a wee bit, and then they went into, like, it was like a survival mode almost. It was like, we know we've got a player less, and we've got this lead, and part of that kind of allowed St John's to get back into the game, I felt. Another wee bit of controversy that happened was when the referee disallowed a St John's goal, as the player had hand passed it, and it went into the net. But there was a wee bit of intervention. A couple of the St John's bench come onto the field, and the referee spoke to the umpires, and they ended up allowing the goal, as the Loughgiel goalkeeper stick had hit the ball on the way in after the hand pass. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I could see, obviously, like, I'm a fair bit away from what happened, but in the, like, I'm pretty sure I would say that it did hit the stick, so I would have to back up with the referee on that one. I think he did get that decision right in the end. One thing that I wouldn't agree with, there were some issues around timekeeping. At the time, I didn't think too much of what happened, but obviously the game ends up being decided by a goal in the last few seconds. So I can see obviously why Loughgiel are unhappy about what happened and how long was played extra. Personally, from what I can see, I was like, the wee app that I keep the scores on. There's a clock running, so what I can say for certain was that the second half, whenever it was a water break, there was 19 minutes, just past 19 minutes gone on my clock, and the referee blew up for the second water break. And when the linesman come over to the sideline, he said at that stage there was 13 minutes left. So by my clock there's 11 minutes left, and he says there's 13. I don't know where the 2 extra minutes came from, but when you add those two in, and then he obviously played a bit of additional time on top of the 60 minutes. So there is an argument. I can understand the argument there from the Loughgiel point of view, that says that the data on time was a bit excessive. For me, there's no doubt there was a bit of controversy surrounding the game, but I personally wouldn't say St John's win was undeserved. I thought they were very good. They played very well in the first half, and honestly, I thought they should have been further ahead actually than what they were. They missed some very good chances, both from playing from frees, which could have made things a wee bit more comfortable. I thought in the half forward line they were very, very strong. Numbers, there were numbers 10 and 12 who from the programme. Carrie Ann Wilkinson and Chloe Fox, according to the programme, and they seemed to be like kind of the catalyst for most of what they were doing, and most of the good play. So, I thought they were very impressive. So St John's junior champions, they'll now move up to the intermediate grade, and like St John's is a big club, very, very big club there in Belfast, so it'd be quite interesting to see how they can progress in the intermediate level, and can they push on over the next couple of years and go a wee bit further, take a few extra steps. So the junior and senior championships are now in the books, and the winners will progress into the Ulster Championships, although we still have obviously the 2020 championships to be finished. I know obviously Loughgiel and Slaughtneil have to play a couple of games, and I think Craigan still have to play in the junior championship from last year. I think it might be this weekend or coming up soon. There's also some domestic matches still to be played. The intermediate final still to be played between Loughgiel and Rossa, and there's a really, really intriguing match for me in the minor final between Dunloy and Ballycastle, both, as I said before, well represented in the minor team that won the All-Ireland. So there's not as many matches to come over the next couple of weeks, but the matches that there are all very good matches, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to cover as many of them as possible on Saffron Sports.